Streaming live via the internet. Welcome to ISP Radio, your weekly source for ISP-related news, events, and interviews with industry experts. If you deliver internet via fiber optic, wireless, coax, or any other way, you're in the right place. Chat live with us weekly via ispradio.com every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. And now a brief word from our sponsors. Link Technologies, providing ISP consulting, support, and hardware for wireless ISPs. TowerCoverage.com, providing online RF coverage maps. Mimosa Networks, providing high-density, high-bandwidth radio products. Advanced LLC, providing retail and wholesale advanced communication services by matching providers with your bandwidth needs. And by Sitel, providing reliability in surge suppression. And now your host for ISP Radio, Steve Grabiel and Dennis Burgess.
I don't hear anything better.
All righty, Steve. Well, we're going to have to figure out why you don't hear stuff, which I know exactly why, but we are going to run through our little music here. Here we go. And we're going to get started.
Streaming live via the internet. Welcome to ISP Radio, your weekly source for ISP-related news, events, and interviews with industry experts. If you deliver internet via fiber optic, wireless, coax, or any other way, you're in the right place. Chat live with us weekly via ispradio.com every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. And now a brief word from our sponsors. Link Technologies, providing ISP consulting, support, and hardware for wireless ISPs. TowerCoverage.com, providing online RF coverage maps. Mimosa Networks, providing high-density, high-bandwidth radio products. Advanced LLC, providing retail and wholesale advanced communication services by matching providers with your bandwidth needs. And by Sitel, providing reliability in surge suppression. And now your host for ISP Radio, Steve Grabiel and Dennis Burgess.
Welcome to another edition of ISP Radio. I'm your host, Steve Grabiel, broadcasting from sunny Southern California. And Dennis is broadcasting and producing the show from St. Louis, Missouri. For the show, we were talking about, I guess, getting cabin fever with the winter, and we were talking about the conditions of the weather like we always do. And out here, we've had record-setting temperatures. People are going to the beach and swimming in the ocean, if you can believe that. Yesterday was 92 degrees here where I'm at. Dennis, what's it like in your neck of the woods?
Cold.
Cold?
Yeah, I was like 12 this morning when I got up.
Geez, so much for El Nino.
Yeah, it's definitely cold.
A wet winter here in Southern California. We're just not seeing it yet.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of snow, nothing good. Nothing, when I say a little bit of snow, or nothing good anyway, I like snow. I don't mind snow. I want snow, but I don't want a half inch of nothingness that goes away before noon, and you can't even enjoy it. There's no point to it. It's just a pain in the butt at this point. So I enjoy the snow. I want the snow, but I want enough of it so you can play in it. How's that? Maybe that's a better word of saying, right?
Exactly. Make some snow angels or go throw snowballs at each other.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, something. Something better than nothing anyway, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So since we missed last week, you were buried with a lot of work, and I was in transition out to California. Any news in the past week that you heard of? What's going on out there? To me, it sounds like it's pretty dead until maybe April, when we hear we might get some news on the ruling.
Yeah, I mean, in all reality, the open internet order and the whole case on that is really probably the next big thing that's going to happen. Obviously, we're very close. We're getting closer to WISP America in Louisville, Kentucky. So that is, of course, interesting. If you're interested in going, you should definitely get signed up. Rooms are going quick. It's a beautiful hotel, beautiful area, and should be a really good time. I'm looking forward to going down there and being with everybody and seeing everybody. Of course, I'll have all my team there as well, so that's always a fun and a good thing as well. Other than that, really, everything's kind of up in the air. In all reality, we have some kind of, not bad stuff, but we're not moving forward in a number of areas. The FCC committee, along with WISPA, is still battling the 3550 SAS stuff for the 3550 band, so we really don't have access to that yet, ish anyway. So that's kind of up in the air. The 3650 licensing stuff is still kind of they're way back. The FCC's way backdated on those, so a lot of that is not really occurring. As far as new products and new solutions, I mean, of course, Microtech came out with their new 922 board with the integrated sector. I think that's a really great product. It's promising to be an excellent product for what it does. So I'm looking forward to that. But overall, all the other stuff, all the new stuff that we've seen at the last Wispapalooza, things like that, still really hasn't shown up on the doorstep. In other words, beta testers may have it, but overall, we don't have anything new that's completely awesome and sitting there out the door. Something that you can sit there and play with in your hand for the most part. So, it is what it is. That's okay. It's not a problem, but we just don't have a whole lot going on. As far as the industry, as far as Link Technologies and tower coverage, I mean, we've been extraordinarily busy with new projects. We do a lot of hotspots. We do a lot of large-scale networks, both municipal and, of course, wireless ISPs. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're obviously limited to either of those. And a lot of these companies, especially the muni stuff, they get their budget at the beginning of the year. So now there's a lot of plans, a lot of quoting, things like that we get done to carry throughout the rest of the year. One of the great things that Link Technologies does is we kind of deploy the product that really fits the need for the customer. We get some customers that deploying a Unify access point system or a Microtech capspan system is perfectly legitimate and will serve 99.9% of their needs. But we also get customers that they really need density, they really need high capacities, things like that. And we have to plan for capacity, not for coverage in those cases. And because of that, we do have other products and solutions. Of course, we have the Unify and the capspan, but we also carry the Ruckus product line as well, so that we can come up with the capacity solution as well. And we've been doing quite a few of those recently. We also have been doing a lot of Hotspot Network Manager installation support and engineering for anything from 2-3 networks to 250, 500 networks now. So quite a few installations out there on that, and a lot of new deployments, things like that. So we've been keeping busy.
Yeah, it sounds like it. In my neck of the woods, we've been going through our network and going to clients' houses and upgrading their caveman equipment to newer stuff and upping our speed.
Getting rid of those CB3s and Transios, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So I got a warehouse full of Transios ready to go when the next catastrophe happens to ship out.
There you go. Yeah, at least you can use them for something, right?
Exactly. Other than throwing them in the dumpster.
Yeah.
I mean, completely usable equipment, but probably only usable to get somebody up and running in the event of a catastrophe like a tornado or something, if they so choose to use.
Sure. Yeah,
But that's been pretty successful. Been hitting. Yesterday we hit 7 out of 15. We got 7 more to go, and we're or 8 more to go, and on one sector, and then we go into the next sector and upgrading people. What I'm finding is sticking with manufacturers. Like if I got a Rocket, I'll use Ubiquity. If I've got a Microtech solution, I'll stick with a Microtech solution. And actually, it's quite beneficial to do that. I'm even using 2.4, and you can slap me for it, but I'm using 2.4 to deliver internet to people, and it's pretty incredible the speeds I'm getting when I just do a Microtech MIMO solution. And it's really equitable using the SXTs, the small SXTs, and putting a KP Performance dish behind it.
Yeah. They definitely have some good gain.
Good price point.
Yeah, they definitely have some good gain on the KP stuff. Microtech does have their QRT2s, which is their integrated solution, but whenever you look at there is a good cost difference. And the QRTs do not have high as gain as the dish. So, I mean, it really kind of depends. Do you want to deploy a dish? Do you not? There's not a right or wrong way. It's just whichever way you want.
Right. Whatever's economical for you. And for me, the dish, for people that are a little bit further than the small SXT can support, are perfect.
Well, you carry one product, too. You carry one product and then an extension. So, yeah, makes total sense.
Yeah. And plus, it gets my guys cross-trained on different product lines so that they're more knowledgeable in deploying these different devices. And we've gone also to a managed router solution, like we heard at Wispalooza, and that's been extremely successful. Being able to manage the traffic down to the person's router is extremely advantageous to me. It suppresses a bunch of nonsense that shouldn't be hitting the net.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to run a proper network. You have to run proper filters, things like that, etc. For those of you that are joining us online, just to make sure, we do have if you go to ispradio.com, the show should be live there. We also have a little questions pane there. If you have any questions for myself or Steve, in general questions, even about the topics that we're going to be talking about today, please feel free to ask. On that, we can, of course, get those in. I guess, Steve, we need to hop into our topic for today.
You bet. So we're coming up to March 1st when we're all supposed to file our 477. So we've been drumming this drum for a while. Let's just talk about why to fill out the 477, why it's required, and the benefits of doing it. So with that, lead on, Dennis.
Thanks. I guess you turn it over to me. So Form 477, I think everybody knows what this is. If you don't, then you've been living in a cave. But otherwise, you definitely need to know what's going on with the Form 477. So just for your knowledge, the Form 477 is an FCC form that is a mandated, required form for you to fill out. It is due March 1st it is due March 1st when we are, let me try this again. It is due March 1st. Let's try to get this again here. Yeah, Steve, you're going to have to give me a sec here. I got I don't know what I just did. I broke my, my shot, and now I don't see my shot at all anymore.
Well, the Form 477 is due March 1st. It's a requirement that the FCC has, a burden that the FCC has put on ISPs. One thing you have to do is you have to have an FRN with the FCC to be able to file this thing. So you got to go get that if you're not familiar with this. I wasn't familiar with it, and I just filled out my first Form 477 last 6 months.
Yeah. So I mean, it's
pretty easy to do. So now I'm, after the show, going to pull out my login credentials and all that stuff and upload the information so I can get that out of my hair. But go ahead, Dennis.
Gotcha. Well, the Form 477, the big thing right now is the next filing due date is March 1st. So end of the month. Okay? I mean, it's here, everybody. If you are a wireless fixed operator, you are basically required to file Form 477. Now, there are a number of resources, but honestly, the FCC, on their website, you Google Form 477 or FCC Form 477, and you're not going to have a problem finding data on that. Okay? So definitely not a issue to get data, and there's a extensive PDF on this. Now, most fixed wireless operators are really going to have two things that they need to subscribe to, or two things that they need to submit. The first one is what we call the fixed broadband deployment, or Section 5.3. Now, the fixed broadband deployment, what that is the specific coverage that you offer. The easiest way to say this is my area that I can deploy broadband in. It uses census blocks, not census tracts, so it's typically very small areas. And inside this area, I have available broadband speeds exceeding at least 200K in one direction. There's all kinds of notes here you can read on. Typically, you can say that I can provide services in the census block within a reasonable amount of time without extraordinary commitment of resources. Okay, so I'm just going to quote right here from their site. For the purposes of the form, the fixed broadband connections are available in a census block if the provider does or could, within a service interval that is typical for that type of connection, that is, without extraordinary commitment of resources, provision two-way data transmission to and from the internet with advertised speeds exceeding 200K in at least one direction to the end-user premise, or to end-user premises in that census block. So basically, it's not saying that you actually have a customer there. It's saying that you could provide without extraordinary commitment. In other words, you're not going to create something that you don't normally already have, but you're going to sit there and take them and give them service within a reasonable amount of time. So if that area you cover in part or in whole, you can consider that area as a covered area. And this is where this broadband deployment file really comes in. Basically, it says, do you offer service there? Do you offer business and residential service? And what is the max advertised speed that you advertise for that census block, both in residential side and commercial side? And that's it. That's basically with this one, because this is actually the hard one. The census, or the broadband deployment data, is the hard one, because when we look at this, especially when you get into more, not even, rural communities is one thing, but getting into areas that have a considerable amount of population, the census blocks are divided up by population. So tighter and more the population, smaller the blocks get. I'm going to use an example of a WISP that has under 300 subs. Their fixed broadband deployment data includes almost 46,000 census blocks, because a couple of the areas that they have coverage in, where there is DSL cable, etc., there are extremely small census blocks in there. So you have to be able to take that data, and you have to be able to or take your predicted coverage and predict and say, here's where we can deploy in a reasonable time frame. So make sure you keep that in mind, that is really what this is. Now, there was an issue a few filings back where some WISPs sat there and drew a circle, literally a proverbial circle, around their tower. So they put a tower there somewhere, wherever their tower was, and then they literally drew a circle, a 5 or 10 mile circle. Big bad juju, because the first thing that the ILEX and these other companies can say is, look at that, that is a perfect circle. That terrain is not flat and open. There's hills, etc. They're using wireless technology. There is no way that that can be a circle. And basically, instead of them getting thrown out, let's try this again. Instead of them throwing out parts that should be covered, right? Thrown out. So in other words, their entire system, their entire site and map was thrown out. So now all of a sudden, they're left with basically they don't cover anything anymore. So that's really a bad thing. You really need to make sure that your coverage is exactly that. It's a coverage. It's not a circle. So you need to make sure it's a real world depiction. Some people like to exaggerate that. Some people like to ensure that they have that even tighter than what actuality is. That's up to you. I'm not going to sit there and tell you, talk to your lawyer about that. I'm not going to get involved in that one by any means. But it's important. And whenever you get into large-scale fixed wireless operations, you will have we have some customers that they have 100,000 plus blocks that they service. So it's very, very important that you get that correct. So that's the first, what I call the hard one, but the first part of the Form 477. And if I go back here to the document again, the second one is what we call the fixed broadband subscription. And this one's actually relatively easy. If you have any kind of ISP or WISP billing system for the most part, or a WISP-centric billing system, you shouldn't have a problem with this. So let me toss this back up on the screen. There it is. The fixed broadband subscription, which is Section 5.4, is the other most common one that most wireless operators are going to need to fill out. Now, what this one says, which census tract do I have customers in? So the difference here is this is actually customers. Okay? So keep that in mind. So now you have actual customers there. Okay? And inside those actual customers, you then have to say, inside this census tract, I have this number of customers, and I have this many business customers, and this many residential customers. Okay? So this is a big factor, because you have to sit there and you have to figure out which one, what do you have in actuality. So you need to say, hey, I have XYZ number of business customers, I have XYZ number of commercial customers, I have XYZ number of those customers in that census tract, and then we have to sit there and we have to go, okay, inside that census tract, what else do I have? How much data, or how much of that customers, or how many of those customers do I have in that tract? How many is business? How many residential? And then what's the speeds they get? So what's the max speed that we gave to a residential package, and what's the max speed that we gave to a commercial package? Okay, so now you have both. You have to have both. You have to know, hey, here's what we are doing. Here's what we're going to, how we're going to handle that, if that makes sense. So that's really where you're at. You need to have all that data. Again, going back, here's my census tract. How many customers do I have in that census tract? How many of those are residential? And then how fast is the fastest residential, and how fast is the fastest commercial? That one's actually pretty easy. So let me kind of explain why there's a difference. We have the census tracts, and then we have the census blocks. So the census block, we'll start with the tracts, easier. The census tracts, the reason why they are easier is because there's a lot less of them. Inside the U.S., we have maybe, I'm just going to say maybe, it's like 2,200 or 22,000 census tracts. So it's nowhere near as many tracts. So it's actually relatively easy. These are grouped in logical areas. So it could be, let's use the word, it could be a census area that is bordered by a county line or a road or a highway or a river, something like that. Okay? Whereas the census blocks are all based on this reporting, this the amount of data, the amount of people inside, so population. And the census blocks, when we look at that, there's about 28 million of those. you need to get all of that data in the broadband fixed deployment. You need to make sure that that's accurate. You can draw circles, you can do many different things, but you have to have all these census blocks, and you have to be able to say, here's my max speed. A lot of people know it's important to look at that and to know which one you're using and which one you're not. Make sense?
Yeah. Does this, a lot of WISPs are going to fiber optic deployment. Does this also include those kind of customers and information needed in the FCC Form 477?
So that's actually a really good question. So the question in this particular case is, if we have if you have a fiber deployment, what do we do? Well, inside this, the broadband reporting, let's see if I can find this again here. Make sure my audio works, because apparently my program doesn't like me today. Whenever we look at the fixed broadband, there is a very specific type of technology, and there's actually a line in there in the template, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to pull this up. There it is. So part of your fixed deployment data, and again, I'm showing this on the screen. I hope everybody can see it. But part of this is by default, we would default this to 70, which is the third thing, the type of transmission, right? But 70 is terrestrial fixed wireless. But there is other ones, such as 50, which is optical carrier or fiber to the end user. So the difference here in this particular case is that you actually would have to submit the broadband deployment data for your fixed operations, and then you need to also submit any overlap with optical carrier or cable modems or any other type of service. So the answer is yes. You still have to come up with a map of some type. You still have to come up with the census blocks that you're offering optical carrier in, and typically you would also sit there and have different speeds, because optical carrier or fiber, you would offer gigabit speeds probably right away, as long as you can support that, and obviously the rest of the fields would be a little different, so you'd have to definitely append that to there. So it is in there, and you would have to change that.
So another question, besides being fined by the FCC for not doing this down the road, what are the benefits to an ISP? Some of the folks that haven't filled this out, there's a benefit associated with this, I imagine. What is that benefit, Dennis?
Well, the very first one is when we look at the form. The very first reason for this form is so that the FCC knows where served and underserved areas are. Okay, at least that's the one goal of it. And the ideal is that as you're going forward, you will have the ability to sit there and to say, hey, I serve these areas. They meet the minimum broadband standards. So, because of that, nobody should get funding to overbuild me. Could be fairly important in those cases. But that goes back to, remember whenever I said that some of these WISPs submitted circles, perfect circles here, of their coverage. And what happened was these ILECs came back and said, the telephone company, they came back and said, no, that's not right. These are underserved areas, and got those thrown out because they were circles, not actual coverages. So go from there. Which one's right, which one's wrong? I'm just giving you some examples.
But one of the benefits is keeping federal money from coming into your area and overlaying another service on top of yours and muddling the waters with more competition.
Exactly. I mean, you sit there and you go, hey, we have XYZ service, but now we need to take that XYZ service and we need to change it, or we need to take that service and we go, if we don't report it, then guess what? The ILEC or somebody else can come in and say, hey, this is an underserved area, give me millions of dollars, and I'm going to overbuild these guys. Which is what happens.
Right.
So, and that's not what you want, obviously.
Right. What are some of the implications of not filling this out?
Well, again, probably the biggest thing in this particular case is the issue of first off, if you don't fill it out, let me take a step back here, because I think this is important to do, or at least to say. Okay, it is a government mandated form. Okay, so what does that mean? That means you, as the operator, are required to fill this out. Okay, it is not something that you can opt in or out. Originally, yes, it was a opt in or out form, but it is not anymore. It is a mandated form. So whatever you do going forward, my big recommendation in this case is that you need to fill out this form every 6 months. End of story. Must do. It's what you have to do. It is part of it. Now, I'm sure if you go in here and you go, I'm sure there is some type of legal notice somewhere inside the form here, and I'm just scrolling through here, trying to find it. I'm sure there's some place in here that if you don't fill this out, here's what could happen to you. Okay, obviously there's fines. Obviously there are reasons for this, but the big thing in this particular case is that it is a required form. Fill it out. The FCC has said in the past that the first couple of them that they weren't really looking to try to get everybody out there to fill it. They know it's going to take a little bit, but now that's not the case anymore. They know. So I just put up this form, sections to be completed by each of these types of providers. Providers of wires or fixed wireless local exchange. This kind of gives you all that broadband fixed deployment data, things like that. Facilities-based providers of broadband connections is usually your fixed broadband and fixed broadband subscription. So the big thing, fill it out because it's important. How's that? Maybe that's not enough.
If anything, to fend off the federal government coming in and funding someone that the federal government thinks there's no coverage there. That's, for me, the key point. I've been smacked with that before, and I won't let it happen again. A government-funded WISP came in and just muddied the water.
With all this, let's try this again. If I unmute myself, right? Yeah. I'm telling you, today is not my day for audio. Nothing can be perfect today. What I was going to say is, first off, if you haven't filled out the form, fill out the form. You need to. It is a mandated form. I don't know where I stopped. I'm going to toss this back up here where the provider type. You're typically going to be in this facilities-based providers, the first section. Which basically means you need to ensure that you have the fixed broadband deployment and fixed broadband subscription. What happens if you don't fill that out? Well, I can't sit there and tell you that. I guarantee you that there's fines, probably more money than you probably really want to spend. How's that? You could definitely use that money to go another direction. So don't think that this is something that you can just skate by with. Eventually, it's very important for you to get done. So, with that said, my company, Link Technologies, along with Tower Coverage, does have a way that if you don't have some of these things, for you to get them, because sometimes it's complicated to make. So, I guess, Steve, do you want to segue into that section?
Well, yeah. I mean, I have a billing platform that I use that helps me with that product, but I was just typing in the Skype chat to talk about Tower Coverage, talk about how it can help folks getting this data in an easy format that it's simple to upload and be done with it quick. With my billing software, I was able to download the data, upload it, and be done with it in about a half hour.
Sure. If I try not to mute myself here again. So the very first thought is towercoverage.com. What is it? Why is it important? What should we be looking at? So towercoverage.com is a tool that Link Technologies developed a while back that allows you to do coverage maps. Now, segue into that, whenever we look at broadband deployment data, guess what broadband deployment data is? It's a coverage map. It's basically a coverage map, but instead of using a graphic interface to show a area of coverage, we use census blocks. So inside of towercoverage.com, we do have two different processes, and both of those are processes that anybody can use as long as you have a tower coverage account. So for the fixed broadband deployment data, the easiest way is that you would take one of your what we call multi-map, which is typically all of your coverage area, would be typically the example. And we would take that coverage map, and if I put that back up here in my window, you would take that coverage map and you can order the Form 477 file here, the broadband deployment data. Okay, you go through this process. It takes a couple hours to process, to be honest with you. Even on a small provider, it's a lot of CPU time to process. But the idea is we take your actual coverage map that you have vetted, that you have made, that you think is accurate enough for the needs that you have. And then we take that and we convert it into the census blocks that you need. And we give you a downloadable format that allows you to take those census blocks, drop them right in. Really, the only extra thing you'd have to really put in there is the max speeds in there. But now you're in a Excel spreadsheet. It's really easy to do. It's 2 columns. So very, very easy to do. We also give you a couple extra things for other work, so a polygon shape file and a GeoJSON polygon file, things like that you can use of your coverage area as well. So you can definitely get that done. It usually takes a couple hours for us to process it, but it's completely online, completely automated. Now, on the flip side of that, we do have the broadband subscriber data. That is a manual upload. It is not something that we do automatically at this point in time, even though we're hoping to have that maybe even done before the first. Don't guarantee it. But that whole idea is that you'll be able to submit a spreadsheet to us, and we will be able to manipulate that, drop it into our system, and output the correct Form 477 broadband subscriber in an hour or two. You have a way that you can take that data. We can take the names and addresses, we can geocode it, and then drop it into the broadband subscriber data, okay, and give you get you started on that. And again, on the flip side, the broadband deployment data that kind of goes hand in hand with our product, which is to get you a coverage map that is accurate. So you're right in the normal ballpark of what we would normally do.
Right, you guys have focused in on this and made it a real usable tool. I've used it before to present to a realtor a propagation model of what we could expect where we place the tower, and I used the tower coverage to sell them, allowing me to put up a tower to help them sell lots. So it's a powerful tool, folks. They've designed this thing to meet the need of our industry, and I have to hand it to them. They've been doing upgrades on it as well, from what Dennis tells me, to make it faster.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the average processing time of most maps are under 60 seconds. The next comparable product out there is actually the tower coverage's predecessor, which was Radio Mobile. Radio Mobile, a proper coverage map like we do with proper 1/3 arc-second resolution and such, is going to take about 45 minutes in a high CPU environment with Radio Mobile. If it's not taking 40 plus minutes, to be honest with you, then there's probably a problem with your map. You're either aggregating data or taking data and averaging it together to create larger areas than 1/3 arc-second, which does happen quite a bit. We get that quite a bit, but definitely options there. So we definitely do it as quickly as possible. And I know a lot of people ask me, it's expensive or something like that. The base package here, I'm just going to toss this up on the screen here. The base package is $25 a month. That's it. There's no contract. If you don't like it, you can cancel. It's no big deal. For those of you that are really interested, I'm gonna just show you some of the extra features that these are probably some of the bigger features that you get with any of these premium accounts. So the example is that hey, here's a WISP and you have a coverage map here. You go to this coverage map page and you get this form, and these forms are designed so that you can either use our standardized form, which is what we call our EUS form, or we have an API system, fully integrated API system that allows you to use your own form. Again, totally up to you on how that. And if you don't want the form, you don't have to use it. So I'm going to go to another page here, hit coverage area. And in this case, they just use our iframe codes. We give them a little piece of code in their multi-map, and then bam, right there, all they do is drag and drop that right on there, right into that code, right into their web page, and now they have a map. Now here's a lot of people go, I can do that with other products. Okay, great, fine, dandy. Well, let me explain why it's important, or why it's nice to use tower coverage. So the very first reason in this case is we have this map. This map is extensive. There's lots and lots of towers inside this map. Now, what happens whenever you add a tower or add a several towers? If you are using some other product like Radio Mobile or other products that use static KMLs, the issue is that now you have to go regenerate your maps and go re-upload them back onto your website. It's not automatic. Where our system, all you do is add those extra coverages to your multi-map, and then your website's instantly updated. So there's no change to it other than you just have to simply add those maps to your multi-map in our system. Now, the other big thing that I'm really going to recommend is using the EUS, and this is what we call end-user submission. Okay, and the end-user submission system is probably the, how's this? It typically will pay for itself in the first potential customer that you get. So I'm going to use a customer's, one of our customers here, and I'm going to open up their map, and I'm going to toss it over to your screen so you can see it. So here's this map. What happens with this is their coverage area, and whenever they sit there and they use this EUS form, and again, you can use EUS through the API or through a iframe, so it's either or. It's totally up to you, okay? But the big thing with this is that we can then sit there and view the end user submission data. Now, what does that look like? Well, here's their coverage, and we view their data. Look at all the data that we get. We actually get geocoded references are looking for service. Did they get installed? Did they not get installed? Lots and lots of data. And you can use this for marketing purposes. I'm going to zoom into this little lake area here. And if you notice here, there is a whole bunch of green icons in here and very few red X's. Well, about 4 months ago, this was all red X's. And the reason for that was that there was no coverage there. We didn't have coverage, or the customer didn't have coverage. They knew that they had a whole bunch of potential clients inside this one little area. And because of that, they went out and found out how can they cover that area.
Utilizing it for marketing purposes.
Exactly.
Powerful.
Mm-hmm. So
it's a multi-pronged tool, really.
Of course it is.
Powerful. Any other new enhancements that you folks have put into tower coverage?
I apologize here. I got a cough there. I didn't want to cough into the microphone for everybody. As you're drinking coffee, I'm sitting here doing the same thing. Any which rate, well, the APIs are brand new features. So you're going to see the integration of a number of different billing packages: VIS, PowerCode, Sonar, Azotel, Billmax. All those guys are going to start integrating.
Good.
Again, I apologize there. All those guys are going to start integrating probably fairly quickly. in the next, I don't know. I mean, they're already starting it. So the EUS stuff is already integrated. So all these subscribers that you see here that have submitted these forms, usually within 2 or 3 minutes, we get an email, or the customer gets an email, and we look for up to 200 towers, up to 200 sectors anyway, and we deliver a report back. Let me see if I can pull up one of these for you guys. Just looking here, I'm gonna try to grab one of these, the more recent ones, and we're gonna show it to you here. All right, here we go. I think. Nope. Try a better one. There's lots of them here, but here we go. Yeah. So if I hop back over here to let everybody see this here we go. So what you get here is you get all their contact information, and you get path analysis to the 6 best sectors. If a sector is not facing the client, you don't even get that path analysis. You also get to see where they're located in relation to those, and then you can change their status very easily enough. You can even add comments. You can edit their data. Maybe they put their PIN in the wrong spot, and you can move their PIN, their location, and reprocess it. You can resend the emails as well. All that is capable of being done inside the system. But this system here, whenever the EUS is processed, if your billing package, which again I kind of mentioned pretty much all of them, if your billing package supports us, which most of them already do in the EUS sense, so like in VISP, what happens is there's literally a customers list, and there's a pop-up that occurs, and inside that pop-up is, here's a new potential customer with all their information and all these images already displayed. That you don't even have to do anything else. It just automatically populates, and you can then hit the customers installed button, which then moves them into an active customer. You can assign a package, things like that. And this works the same for many other billing packages, or similar for many other billing packages. With the new API stuff, we have an EUS receive API. So now from the billing package, you could submit name, address, all the valid details, and then wait for return. We are also having a instant service qualifier with that API. So by a programmable method, try that again, easy for me to say. By using programming, you could literally submit, wait, and we're going to come back with yes, it's serviceable, or no, it's not. So all of a sudden,
imagine that, no truck rolls.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the whole ideal here. Is that the original ideal was, how do we prevent truck rolls for being for customers being outside the coverage area? I mean, look at this coverage area. You can see valleys and hills and dales and things like that, and down in these valleys is where we can't get coverage. So how do we prevent rolling in a truck when a customer's significantly outside a coverage area or down in a valley, and you can see that on a map? You don't want to have to take a truck out there. So that's that's kind of half the point of being able to do this. So with that said, that is some of the major feature set that you get with your tower coverage account. And this all starts at the $25 a month access. So again, it's not like we're gonna try to break the bank here. It will grow with your network as you grow, etc. And we also have some extra new stuff. So we have what we call link groups. So we can display, get that, there it goes. So you can build your links between your tower sites. You can see your network maps, and you can click on the links and see your link path analysis. All that kind of good stuff is already included. We actually have some new overlays, some county lines, zip codes. You can upload your own overlays if you want to have your own tower sites or own overlays. You can have that. We have a frequency usage system, which allows you to see frequency usage. Looks like this client's not using it yet, but would allow you to see frequency usage in that network if you wish to as well. And you can do instant path analysis as well. All those things can be done. Something else that we recently added is on individual coverages. So we look at an individual coverage here. So this is a tower site. We also have some extra data, what we call map data here. We can look at population density in that area. So again, we can see our population density. If you noticed, we have population. We have how many square kilometers, how many square miles up the top, and then a population that we are estimating we cover, and that's based on this population density map. So let me go to a bigger map, one of these other sites that have quite a few, or a coverage that has it's not a micro repeater. How's that? So here we go, 5 gigahertz. This is way up on a tower. So there you go, and you can go to the map data, and again you can see this population. You see where we're getting our population. Where is the most heavily populated area in that area? On top of that, a lot of people go, well, why does this give me this? Well, we do use land cover. We have the most up-to-date land cover that I know of any system. And you can actually click on land cover. You can change your opacity here, however you wish. But this shows you the land cover data that we use in calculating your coverage areas. And a lot of times what you'll find is you'll find lines of trees or things like that, and you'll see cutoff points of your coverage area. So this allows you what we're seeing in that land cover system. Also, we give you the full options to edit and modify all of your land cover data to make sure it's accurate for your area. So we also have support that you can give us a call or shoot us an email. So it's not like you're on your own. We do have support as well for those things. So again, going back here, we can get the F-Form 477, both the subscriber data and the broadband data. The subscriber data, we have to get at least a customer listing of yours. But we can then get that and geocode that and then create the broadband subscription data. Since we have your coverage data already, or hopefully we have that, completely self-service, you can order your deployment data as well without any issues. So that shouldn't be a big deal at all. Sign up is all done online. Pricing, again, like I said, starts at $25 a month. Relatively inexpensive. And then, like I said, we do have all of the new API stuff going on, so that if you wish to integrate it into your website or wish to integrate it into your billing system, I know Freeside has been working on using a lot more of the APIs. I'm pretty sure some other billing packages, I'm not going to mention any names, but some new billing packages, they aren't even going to develop a radio propagation system, link path analysis, any of that, because our system already does it. We focus on that, and that would be a very large project for them to do. And they are just using our APIs now to fully integrate their system. So they're planning that they're literally going to be able to take a tower coverage account. So you go and we'll have their system, and then you'll create a tower coverage account. And then you will be able to go to their system, say, here's my account information, and everything else is done inside their system. You don't even have to log into towercoverage.com. Unless you need to for something. But you don't even have to log into our interface. Everything's going to be inside their interface with our new APIs. So lots and lots of good stuff. And anybody can use the APIs. It's all very well documented. We have a wiki site, wiki.towercoverage.com, that has lots and lots and lots of great articles, great data in here for anybody that wishes to come in and learn how to do various items. Lots and lots. I mean, you can see all the systems. The web integration is probably one of the biggest features. There's lots of that, and then we have all the API data in here as well. So lots of really good stuff that everybody can do. So
yeah, tower coverage is definitely a valuable tool for any ISP. That's for sure. I guess just to wrap up the show today is we've got till the end of the month to get our 477 information in. How you do it is up to you, but Dennis and I highly suggest that you file that information so that your competition, your ILECs, don't come into your neck of the woods with government money to chase you off.
Yeah,
I mean that's not right and that's not fair.
Yeah, I mean that's really the big thing. It is a requirement. You guys have to do it. You need to do it. You can make it painful by, I know people that want to do it themselves, and they sit there and they take a Google map or they take some site that they found that may have questionable census block data and census tract data, and then they start going, okay, where's my customers? Okay, I have one. Okay, this customer's in this one. And I mean, it's a painstaking process that should be fairly automated. And we can automate that if you wish us to or not. It's totally up to you. We offer that service, both the subscriber data and the deployment data, through towercoverage.com. You can give us a call to Link Technologies, and we can help you with that or not. Again, it's up to you. If you have a WISP-centric billing platform, they may have some form. But remember, it's a requirement. You need to fill this out. This also tells the FCC how many customers are WISPs serving, how many square miles are WISPs covering, things like that. So it gives the WISP industry more validity as well with the FCC. If we don't file, then guess what? It just shows that we're not there, or we're not trying to conform to the rules that we should be.
Exactly. Well, Dennis, I want to thank you for your insight on the Form 477, and like I told you earlier, I'm going to wrap up the show and head and do that right now. So if you'll wrap us up, I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Yep, thank you very much. And again, everybody, next week, 11 a.m. Central Time. Of course, this video will be online. You can, of course, review it at any time via ispradio.com, and, of course, we have our show scheduled there as well. If you need to get a hold of Link Technologies or towercoverage.com, obviously towercoverage.com is the website for Link Technologies hardware. It's linktex.net. Or you can give us a call, 314-735-0270 as well. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, have a great week.
Thank you for listening to ISP Radio. We hope you've gained new insights and additional wisdom in our industry as well as your business. Please remember to visit our show sponsors via the links on ispradio.com. If you're interested in becoming a show sponsor, contact us at sales@ispradio.com. Now go out there and push those packets as fast as you can. Good luck and Godspeed.